This is Brent Holmes, and you are listening to Happy Earth Market Podcast.
Hi, everybody. This is Happy Earth Market Podcast. I'm Sam.
I'm Nathan.
I'm Dennis.
And today on the show we have...
I'm Brent Holmes. I'm a guy.
Yeah, Brent Holmes.
So,
Did you just give your pronoun?
No, I don't care about that. I find pronouns completely irrelevant. Like, not for other people, of course, they're totally irrelevant. But for me, I'm just like, if you want to call me like that bitch, I don't give a fuck. Like, as long as you're respectful about it.
Right on. What do you do?
That bitch.
What?
So I do remember where I met you, and I'm curious.
Okay.
I met you with a bunch of grapefruits in a room over here.
Oh my god, yeah, it is.
And I was like, who is this interesting fucking person?
Was he wearing like a sheet?
Yeah, it was like a sheet.
Working with my creative partner, Carla Lagunas. And yeah, we were doing a performance piece called Pamplemousse, which was about the objectification of... okay, so I'll put it to you this way. The grapefruit is a product that could only have existed with the creation of the New World within colonialism. It is the hybrid between a pomelo and a sour orange. It's a mistake of nature or whatever, but it happened randomly in citrus fields. I believe I can't remember which island it happened in right now. But
it was an accident.
It was accidental. And it's a direct product of old world fruits being put together in a new world place, in new world soil. Carla and I had been having this conversation about, she's Latinx and I'm African American, and we were talking about how both of those cultures, Latinx culture and African American culture, are accidental products of colonialism. Mm-hmm. They were not the intent. That was not the purpose. But that also now we live in a culture that is, deeply dependent on both the African American and the Latinx culture to project what it is to be an American, what it is to be from the United States. Both of those ethnic groups, both of those cultural groups, are at the core. And just like...
I believe that totally. Literally, it's the slaves built this country.
But I think you're talking about art.
But that's not. But here's the thing: not only did the slaves build the wealth that this country was built on, but then, other than, of course, indigenous Americans, I would say that African American people are the most American of Americans because of the effects of slavery on them. They lost massive swaths of their cultural aspect. Those were either beaten out of them or just lost due to a lack of capacity to exchange information. People from different tribes were imported from Africa. They got scrambled around. They interbred with the native population. They were forced to breed with the European population and sometimes chose to. And so what you end up with is a culture that is wholly American. It doesn't exist anywhere else. Black American culture doesn't exist anywhere else, and to my mind, it is the definition of American culture. It is the bedrock of the result of 400 years of slavery, and then a good 100 years of oppression, and the direct product of colonial actions. But it was completely invented because they didn't have the same tools. I get into this conversation with the woman I was doing that performance with, Carla Lagunas, frequently about the idea of apocalypse, because right now, I think we all feel we're living in very apocalyptic times. Strange times
for sure. Like,
yeah.
If you could just, I was just reading this piece in this book over there called Bizarro World, and it's just like it was written in the 50s, and it was predicting the future, and it may have well been talking about Trump's presidency right now.
Yeah,
just baffling me. Sorry, go ahead.
No. taking into consideration the bizarro world that we are living in right now, we end up in the conversation about apocalypse relatively frequently, and we have a pretty good dialogue going on about the idea that Native Americans, African Americans, Latino Americans are the descendants of people that experienced an apocalypse already. They've already, their entire worlds disappeared, and they had to rebuild the world. The world ended for them on some level, as a culture, as a people. So when we look at what America is, if it is a thing at all, we have to look at it as we can go throughout the history that we were taught in books our entire lives, but what's typically broadly ignored is the history of those people's apocalypses and how they restructured themselves as cultures and grew something wholly new, and beautiful.
I never thought about it in that sense at all.
And things that ended up defining what it is to be American. You can't be American without rock and roll. You can't be American without jazz. You can't be American without the baseline food that comes from cooking that comes out of the French Quarter in Louisiana, any more than you can be American without the food that comes from German immigrants. So we live in a pretty fascinating place. So when you met me, I was doing a piece. And we were handing out grapefruits because A, no one likes grapefruits. B, nobody likes grapefruits. It's a fact. Nobody. It's true.
I've heard people say they do, but I don't believe it.
And we were wrapped up in a big kind of white piece of cloth.
And if I remember correctly, you guys were together.
We were connected, but competing because we wanted to have a dialogue or symbolize the fact that African Americans and people of Latinx heritage are typically pit against each other via the white gaze in this country. So they're like, oh, well, who's the better minority? And it's like, why are we competing? Especially because our cultures, our bottom line, the baseline of our cultures, we're connected like this. We draw from each other constantly, and we feed each other and loop into each other. But then there's still this weird pithy fight about you can't and they can't, and what about what they are, and it just doesn't make any sense.
I always found it funny where I grew up is the Latin kids and the black kids listened to all the same music, they drove the same type of cars, but they fought like crazy. They're sharing the baseline culture. They're sharing all the things that they love are the same principal things, and maybe their dinners taste different, but for the most part, culturally, they're exchanging a great deal, and yet somehow they're at odds with one another.
Right.
It seems.
I don't know who said it, and I'm totally paraphrasing, but the greatest trick America ever played on all of us is teaching poor people to hate other poor people. It's such a dupe. You know what I mean? It's just hilarious that poor whites, poor blacks, that we all hate each other. Poor everybody hates each other and thinks that they're the trash. And that's just not the case.
Well,
you've just been duped into thinking
and
that.
It's just, and not only that, but I mean, you're talking about classes, and people in upper class, they hate the poor too.
I do think people in the upper class. I have trouble with the word hate. I
was rephrasing his word.
No. Poor people are pitted against one another by the upper classes because we are taught to believe that we live in a meritocracy, which we fucking don't. We don't live in a meritocracy. If it was just the best person to do the thing always got the best result in this culture, then the world would be a hell of a lot better. But it's not that.
That would be great.
It's not that. It's maybe if it's the best at greasing certain wheels, the best at tamping certain people down, the best at abusing, the best at cruelty and conniving, then maybe that's a meritocracy. But that's a meritocracy of abuse.
Yeah, totally.
But we're taught we're in a good old-fashioned, honest meritocracy. That's what we're supposed to be living.
Well, that very thing has bit me in the ass so many times. Integrity has hurt me a lot of times. It's a bummer.
I mean,
But here's the thing: it does exist. And
integrity,
absolutely, it does, because look at Happy Earth Market. This very business here is a completely integrity-based business.
Absolutely, but that's a risk, and it's scary. And I remember I remember the first time I came in here, and I said, "What the fuck are these guys doing?
You're not
these people are fucking crazy. I don't know how they're gonna get donations for the rent. They're hosting people. They're happy somehow magically.
In the name.
Yeah, but I mean it's true too. There's a lot of places that are like happy blah blah blah, and you go in and they're like, here's your $7.99 cheese fries. I don't get out of here, die somewhere. And you're like, okay, man. No, like they're genuinely happy. They're actually inviting. How the fuck can anybody like make that work? That's so
because you want it. That was the whole thinking. I'm like, I want it, and I had a disposable income, and I did support spaces like this with my disposable income. If I did it, I know others do it. Mm-hmm. So I just need to create it and figure out how do we, for better lack of words, sell it. How do we sell the idea to everybody that, hey,
this is your space.
This is your space.
This isn't ours.
You got to pay for it too, but only $1 or $2.
Yeah.
It's not because there's a lot of us in here, and it's not a lot of money if all of us are putting $1 or $2 in.
No, it's not.
You know what I mean? And so it's just proof that it does work, and it's all integrity because everybody knows. They go in the back and get a soda, and they throw $1 in the jar. I don't have to cashier that. At the end of the night, we count our soda money, and it matches inventory. That's integrity, and it's just beautiful. It's beautiful because it does exist, and this is proof that it exists, and that makes me happy.
Yeah, right.
But I don't know how it.
That's something you guys are putting out into the world, though. I mean, to be genuine.
Absolutely.
I've seen a lot of people try a lot of things to sell a lot of stuff, and I think we all have. Mm-hmm. But if you're getting that kind of response from your community, that's because you're putting that out appropriately. And
I appreciate that.
It's just being truthful, We've got our transparent rent thermometer on the mirror for everybody to see. Like, it's the truth,
We've had a couple people be offended by that thermometer.
Yeah.
And you
shouldn't do that. Nobody should know your financials. I'm like, well, it's not our financials, it's our financials.
Yeah.
And it's not like there's numbers on there. It's 1 through 100%, you know what I mean? It's
yeah. I mean, no. When I walk in and I see that, I go, oh, shit. Okay, so, like, when I get my, when I get my payday, like, oh, shit, I should come down and, like,
drop in at $5. Yeah.
Drop in $5, buy something, pick something up. Yeah, hang out.
Hang out, because that's really the thing, right? Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited that we're doing this podcast with you, because every time we have a bright light of energy spark up their energy into our space and in our podcast, it motivates the universe to. I'm
sorry. I'm gonna. Oh no.
Oh. That's universe concurring.
She
said bright light.
That's my key creative partner calling me, and I know she's gonna be like, "What's going on?"
Why wasn't I invited?
No, I told her where I was gonna be.
So if you were to, because I read a little bit up on you today, and you, first of all, I was surprised that you've literally exhibited all over the world.
Well.
That's what the website says.
What?
I have, but I don't know what that means.
It means you know people.
I know lots of people, but
I was more surprised at the variety of stuff you've done. Like, so where do you even have a name for your? Because most people say I'm a contemporary artist, or I'm a performance artist, or I'm a graphic artist, but it doesn't seem like you're just an artist. Like, it just seems.
Well, okay, so I've started to explain when people are like, "What do you do?" I say, I choose and work with the tools that I feel best fit the form of expression I am engaging in. Mm-hmm. So if I want to communicate a direct, specific message, I design a poster or I make a book. If I want to talk about something more nebulous, I create a painting or a sculpture or an object. If I want to be in conversation with not just the visual senses, but talk about the experience that is existence, the sensory experience that is existence, I make food and I present it with intellectual codifiers. If I want to talk about the experience of having a body or the human emotional landscape, yes, I can make a painting, but I can also make a performance out of that. And
right.
It's not...
It's all expression.
It's all expression. And I think I get into conversations with artists that I love all the time, and no negative 10 shade on anybody that's got a lane and wants to stick with it. Like, I get it, if that's what you got. But, frequently I see people that are, working in one medium and not taking into consideration necessarily that maybe the idea that you're processing, maybe the ideas that you're expressing can be explored not only in other avenues, but more effectively through other avenues. So I didn't get into art so I could make stuff or show stuff or do stuff. I got into art because I was really weird and fucked up, and I loved comic books and I loved movies and I loved music, and I wanted to do cool shit and have fun. And at the end of the day, if it's not fun, I usually don't want to do it. You know what I mean? I love making things, and I love seeing how people interact with things, but I also I love the act of performance at this point. And, everything's...
If only they could see you talking right now, too. Everyone listening.
Very animated.
His hands are all over the hell, all over the place, all over.
It's the, but I also...
Great.
I come from, my whole... we talk about our parents frequently in culture as our inevitably become our models for our own lives on some level or another. Whether it's just the model of like, I never want that, or look, you can do that. I've seen it done.
Right.
And I come from a family of artists and entertainers, primarily, that all at some point had a certain amount of, look, you can do that. You can make that. Even if it seems pie in the sky, if it seems ridiculous, you can do that. You might make real money, you might not, but you can do it.
Yeah.
And I've watched, my mother and my father and even my grandmother and to a much lesser extent my grandfather, because he didn't live long enough during my lifetime, all live really out their lives for who they were, and so when you come from that background, I say we're what did I say? Because my aunt's the same way. My aunt's like amazing. I say we're kind of like righteous, self-expressionists. Like we're kind of like
awesome.
Everybody in my family is always pushing some kind of weird boundary.
That's awesome.
My father's parents were mixed race, and this is like 1944 mixed race. Like my dad,
super hard times. To
do
that. Yeah,
and like they lived in the North, but I got stories where like my grandpa got beat up by men for holding his wife's hand in public. Wow. My aunt, she came out as a lesbian 5 years ago. She has 2 children. She was, her daughter, just married a trans woman about 3-4 years ago, and that's kind of everybody in my family on some level like will not. My mother has 7 Emmys, which is bizarre to say because my mom has 7 Emmys from the 70s. Oh my gosh! She wrote my Brenda Jones. She was working for Washington D.C. PBS when she moved in with my father, and they were trying to have me, which was
looks like they did a good job.
I guess.
Yeah.
I mean,
here
my
you
mother,
are.
I remember my mother when I was a teenager. She said, why are you scared of getting into trouble? And it's like, I don't want to get punished. And she said, Brent, I didn't want to raise you that way. Your father and I's only goal is to raise a free human being. That's it.
That's beautiful.
That's all we want for you. And I was like, I have no idea what that means. I'm 15. And
how do you rebel against that?
Yeah, no, you don't. And they, but yeah, my mother wrote, directed, and starred in and produced a bunch of shows for Washington D.C.'s PBS. And,
amazing.
And so, like, everybody in my family kind of goes way out on a limb. And
so cool.
Yeah.
So you just mentioned when you were 15 you didn't think about it. And saying it now out loud, how does that make you feel? Like that?
I have no idea what I still don't know what a free human being is. I'm not going to make. I can't make a claim on the idea.
That's a really good question. One I think about a lot, actually.
We have to study the concept of freedom, first of all. I mean, like, okay, so like in the United States, like the idea of freedom is presented like okay, so you have these English people that come over, not first, like the Spaniards are down here hanging out, but like the Spanish are kind of bastards, like brutal bastards. If you look at the history of Spain, ooh, but like of course because they were terrible at everything, and then they got really good at killing people. And anyway, so the English come over and they're like, well, we want freedom. Well, what kind of freedom? Well, we want religious freedom and financial freedom. But that's not like they didn't want freedom for enslaved people. They didn't want freedom for women. They didn't want, you know what I mean? They didn't want.
And to be clear, the freedom of religion they wanted was the freedom to practice their religion.
Yes.
It wasn't an all inclusive. That's a misnomer. Like,
absolutely. When they write in like freedom of religion, it's like, well, I mean, as long as it's Christianity and you go to church on Sunday, and you're like, wait, but what? And,
I mean, if we're talking pre United States. First part of colonialism, those people were coming here to practice their religion because they were too strict for Britain.
Yeah.
Britain's like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, you guys are crazy, but not in a cool way. And you know, so then we get my favorite group of people that came over. Although after that are like you get the people from like Holland and the people from Germany, and that's where you get all this kind of like American rebel Appalachian weirdness, where because those were people that believed in like radical individualism and
radical freedom.
like super radical freedom, where it's like nobody can tell me to do anything, like borderline anarchists.
It's not even a coincidence who settled that Appalachians. Like they're like, oh, this looks just like home.
Yeah,
and they went right up there because of the Highlanders from Scotland, and then the German Highlanders that you're talking about, and then some Irish, and they're like, we can just do what the fuck we want up here. No one's going to bother us, and it's still a rather lawless land.
Yeah, and specifically because it caters to that idea, and then they had all sorts of other ideas that got wrapped up later that I don't necessarily agree with. Some of the behavioral belief systems of the people of Appalachia, but
the one I do subscribe to that I like a lot is the take care of your own. I love that. Yeah. We take care of our family, and if you mess with us, we'll hurt you. But if you respect us and treat us well, we'll do the same back to you. I do like that.
And I think it's a completely respectable policy, and I think a lot of the problems we look at today are like these kind of broad-based issues of tribalism, where it's like, well, we're a tribe, but not really, but we are, but we're not, and like
red team, blue team, right?
Yeah, and none of that's a bunch of fucking bullshit because
it's
like
all malarkey.
Within that there's a cascade of human.
You know, stuff's involved.
It is
a lot of stuff.
It is way more complicated than left to right.
Yeah,
it is not. It's ridiculous.
And so you end up, but you end up like, oh, I gotta go with this side of people, and it's like, but that's dumb. You don't even like half the things they say. You just like two things that they agree with you on, and you believe in those two things so passionately that you're just gonna side with them anyway. Go for it, man. But
do you vote?
Yeah. I mean, I do. I'm a black man in America. I better fucking vote.
Cool.
Too many people fought and suffered for that right specifically.
Well, agreed, but that can be said for everybody. Like, you vote, I feel like it's super disrespectful. If you don't vote.
Yeah.
And you also owe it to your ancestors to vote intelligently.
Yes. You need to be informed, you need to be educated, you need to have an understanding of this situation and the scenario, but yeah, you have to, I think it's, I don't know if democracy works, okay? I'm not sure this thing is working, but it's an experiment set up by a bunch of like...
I like how you're answering my questions before I ask them, man. I was like, so do you think it works? The voting thing? I don't know. I'm asking.
It's a really crazy experiment. I mean, if I'm being genuine, I'm kind of a pretty... I slide pretty far to the socialist scale. I legitimately believe I get a little above socio-anarchist, where I'm just like, we're not ready for that yet. I've met people, I've interacted with them, we're not ready for that.
I don't believe in anarchy at all.
Well, see, the way anarchists always explain it, the smart ones, the useful ones, not the like you can do whatever you want, but the ones is that we create a social structure that's so supportive, that's so well-rounded, that's so well lubricated and put together, that's so healthy that at a certain point you aren't required to follow any laws because you already understand the nature of existence well enough to be good and do what's beneficial for the larger.
Sure. I mean, I do
Talking
believe
about
in,
integrity again.
You are, yes, and
Yes.
That's, you guys are doing an experiment here.
Oh, we know it. Yeah.
And
We
in
don't
part-
label us though. Don't label us as anything.
I'm not going to say that you guys are anything, but there is certainly socialism and there is certainly anarchism going on here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, those things. You know, you're putting a lot of faith in
Humanity.
for
No,
strangers.
You know, it's true, and I am a very suspicious person. That's just my nature. And Happy Earth Market has like gotten rid of all that for me, and actually given me the education I never even know I wanted. Like just meeting so many people who from so many different backgrounds, and just going, wow, like everybody's just like everybody's struggling, everybody's amazing, and everybody's also really happy. They're not just struggling. You know what I mean? And we just get to meet every level of in between that you could think of. It's so great. And I didn't know I wanted that. I wasn't closed-minded, but I wasn't open-minded either. You know what I mean? But I was here to support her, and I believed in this dream, and then boom, I get to meet all these amazing people. I didn't know any artists before we moved in here. You know what I mean? Like an artist was not
People that have hung all over the world. I mean, that's weird. It's so weird to have people of your stature in here.
Okay, so I was told not to deprecate myself in any way when having a conversation. But the reality of this is I make work. I get lucky. Sometimes people want to see it. Sometimes people want to see it in other places. And that's really nice. That's beautiful. And it certainly gratifies me in a weirdly egotistical way. But that said, I went through some real tea. In 2001, not only did September 11th happen, but a very close friend committed suicide, and directly after that, like probably the closest adult human male, like peer, my best friend, he died in a car accident in the October of 2001, and I ended up doing about, I'd say 7, maybe 8 years of real hard binge drinking, real alcoholism, like where I didn't pick up a paintbrush. I didn't, you know what I mean? I didn't make any art realistically. I didn't make anything for myself. I had a day job where I was still relatively creative, but it was,
It was just a day job.
It was just a day job,
Yeah.
and I didn't do anything creative, and my life didn't get better again. I didn't get healthier, and I don't consider myself a healthy person necessarily. Like I don't consider myself. I'm not like, oh, I'm, I have more than enough shit to work through still. But things did not start improving until I started dedicating part of my time and my life to my creative practice. And so I know that that's crucial for my emotional and psychological health. And
keeps you from being depressed.
Well, it does not keep me from being depressed.
Well, maybe keep you from being depressed on such a level where you're having bad habits such as binge drinking.
Yes.
Because art is great therapy.
Yes, yeah. It gives me something to do with my hands. And I think a lot of people don't think about what they do with their hands and with their time a lot. We think we have to do things, or we think we like things, and a lot of the time we have routines. An addiction is just a routine that you told yourself you need. Some addictions can be pretty good for you. If you're addicted to meditation and going for a 5-mile run every day, those are pretty good habits to keep, and those are just as addictive as a Big Mac, a bottle of beer, or a shot of heroin on some level, right? Like,
totally. People do totally get addicted to that.
Yeah, you're just giving your brain presents. You're like, hey, brain, you like this, and it's like, I do. I love this. This is great.
And we are creatures of habit, so that's all
absolutely.
we're doing is establishing good or bad habits.
Precisely, and like I got more than my fair share of bad habits still, but
me too.
Yeah, right. But in the same right, like you have to have some kind of something again to do with your hands, something constructive to do with your hands, because that's it. This is the difference between a human and a elephant or a pig, like, is realistically like this. Like,
Right.
the digits you got there. That's it.
We could talk a lot of shit too, though.
Oh, well, no, I listen. Again, I have a favorite short story called "In Search of," which by this really, really unknown artist, writer who, and one of my favorite quotes. The quote that sold me on that was, "There is intelligent life in the universe. None of it uses radio signals or electricity." And I'm like, that's most likely.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, trees.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
But trees technically, never mind.
Well, but I mean, we know that, right? We know old growth forests talk to each other like families.
Beautiful. I love all the research that they've done.
Here's what I don't understand anymore: is it seems like I think about it and then it becomes reality. Like, we were talking about, I wonder if trees talk. We had the whole conversation when we were high one night,
and then PBS
had a show about it. I was like, Jesus Christ!
I said Jesus Christ had nothing to do with it, though. I mean, you believe me. We conflict on that sometimes.
No.
Do you have any advice for entrepreneurs?
I'm not an entrepreneur. I am so unsuccessful. I mean, I'm good at making things, but I'm just driven to make things. And I want to make stuff, and I would be making stuff. If I lived in a cabin in the woods, I'd still be making stuff. It wouldn't be the same stuff; it'd be different stuff, but I'd be doing it. If I had nowhere to show it. I have advice for humans, which is make sure it feels right. Make sure it feels right. If it doesn't feel right, if you're going down a trail and you're scared or you're unhappy or you're feeling some kind of pain or some kind of anxiety, man, stop for a minute and look around and take a breath. Because I know the biggest mistakes I've made as a creative individual or as a emotional being, as a spiritual being, as an intellectual being, whatever the fuck codifier, as a parent, as a partner, as a child, have always been when I'm going down the road and I'm not listening to my anxieties. When I'm not listening to, there's always some healthy anxiety that's good, that works, that you should experience when you're doing something that's difficult or new. But see how long it carries on. Always test that water, because sometimes I was reading a really, really cool article from Scientific American the other day that basically was like, self-knowledge is bunk. Self-knowledge is bunk, as in, like, people that spend a lot of time exploring and trying to know themselves are not actually necessarily making themselves any healthier.
Sure.
But I don't think that's the same thing as listening to yourself. I think, you spend a lot of time knowing yourself, and then you realize that you don't know yourself, and you're probably never gonna.
But people should follow their intuitions and their guts.
Yeah.
I mean, it's happened to me a bunch of times where, man, I don't know, man, I know that person's going to do me wrong. The day I meet them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then, for sure, it comes true later. Now, maybe that's some sort of manifestation or something. I don't know, but it has come true a lot of times. Or the opposite. Like, this person's going to be dope in my life forever. I know that this person would always be cool.
Cool. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It works both ways. You know what I mean?
No, I think you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Especially, like, one more thing on my motorcycle. When I'm riding my bike, and there's 1,000 ways to get to where I'm going, whatever one tells me to go to, that first one, I always follow it. Mm-hmm. Because I have this weird superstition that if I second guess it, I'm going to get in a motorcycle accident.
Oh, no, I completely, I do the same thing even in my car, where I go like, or where are we going? How are we getting there? And I'm like, but that's like a weird way to. Just do it, man. Like, you're like,
yeah,
do it that way. Do it like because I told you to.
Yeah.
Or accidentally pass the turn you were supposed to get off on.
all those
like,
things.
Oh, how did that even happen? Like, why did that happen?
Or you have to go back in the house like 3 times for stuff you forgot.
Oh my God! And I always wonder about timing, right? I always like. it eats on me. When you're having a great day, I wonder about it. When I'm having a terrible day, I really fucking wonder about it. When I'm like, yeah, and then the car exploded, and then people were like, really? And I'm like, yeah. If I'd left the house 15 minutes later, would that have happened? If I left the house 20 minutes before,
I think about that. Or if I didn't make this decision, would all of this have happened? You know what I mean? Like I wonder about that.
That's
all
why
the
that
time.
whole there's all the ideas of thinking that this is all not random. It is all fate. And, like, there's higher beings at play here controlling our little vessels here and, like, doing all that.
But I have to ask you a question, though.
Mm-hmm.
So then how does free will factor into that? Because, like, and, we can extrapolate this into a supernatural realm, or you can just take it from, like, almost like, a pretty, like, even the point of view of physics on a certain level that, like, everything is causation from the Big Bang, and like galaxies spiral in a certain direction, and all the things that happened started in motion initially all have like their own point of fruition, right? Mm-hmm. And so like then are any of my decisions mine, or am I just like random atoms traveling through space, just like a meteor, just like a planet, just like the sun? Am I just one of those things that's doing it? And any pretense, any idea that I actually have any control over this whatsoever is a complete and utter fucking bullshit delusion, and I've been sold, and all of the stress that comes with me being responsible for my decisions, thinking I have control, thinking I can gain some level of control. All the stress that comes from that is absolutely fabricated, and that's the only thing that is actually being generated is some level of stress. Like I don't,
great question that I ponder a lot myself.
Well, there's so many different. I mean, I think all of it's real. If it can be thought, I think it's real. Just because if it exists in your brain, it must be real for you. I'm not
but
one.
I hate that idea because there's a lot of horrible thoughts.
There is, but there's a lot of
but there's a lot of good
thoughts
too. Though.
Yes,
and the same thing with, a belief system. If that's what a person sees the sky as being a different color blue than me, then it must be that color blue too.
Oh well,
too as well.
As well. No, no.
Because it's like.
Well, you know what I don't
all
know
reality
if
is
this is
real.
Oh no, that's really scary.
I know,
this
but
is on
it's
the same
true.
level.
It's not a not true statement.
No, I didn't say it wasn't true. I said it was scary.
One thing that jacks me up sometimes is thinking about so your mind is making up most of what you're seeing based on memory that it's seen it before. Like it's right? So then my real question is, what does reality really look like?
Stop it. This is that horrible, I smoked a little too much weed and it's 4 a.m.
Not even high. See,
where you're just like,
podcast goes.
Yeah,
you're spiraling in on this shit and you're just like, why am I even doing this to myself? Oh, fuck.
You're the one that brought philosophy into the conversation.
That's my job. That's my job. That's what I do. God. Yeah.
Well, do you believe in aliens? There's an Area 51 takeover.
What does that mean? Again,
it's a festival in the desert.
Oh, no. The Area 51 thing sounds super fun, and it's going to be cute, and I hope everybody has a good time and nobody gets shot by the
federal government. It looks like they're all canceled, but go ahead.
Well, I don't know if it's all canceled. I heard just today, a couple people got, motel rooms up there at the little Ailey Inn.
Yeah.
Well, two people I tried to book for our Thursday at Bazaar that are, always yeses, got gigs up there.
Yeah, there's something going on, so it's a party at least. So I hope they have a really good party.
I might have to take that Friday off and go right up there.
Yeah, I love those drives, man. I love. Can I
go digress as much as you'd like?
I just want to talk about the desert for a minute.
Yeah, please, yeah.
Because we live in a really special place, and I've been thinking about how place works on your perception, your the way you experience things, and I was just on the East Coast and I was just driving up and down, and I used to be in love with the kind of the woods and the forest and the trees, and it's not like I don't have a love for those places anymore, but I remember being out here and thinking man, I just want to see some big trees, I want to see some real greenery, blah 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 blah. And that weighing on me for the first maybe 2-3 years, and then
feeling homesick.
Homesick, and then you start to get your desert eyes, and you start to get your desert heart, and you get out there, and I've walked 13 miles. You know what I mean? roadless in the middle of the desert, for 8 hours. And it does something to who you are.
Totally.
And it's not the kind of thing that can happen on a beach or in a forest. And I'm not saying those things aren't magical and exceptional and amazing too, but there is a real heart of desert. And I remember, because I was real little. Like, my parents, we lived in LA, and my dad was doing a TV show, and he would do gigs out here at the Sands usually, and my mom would pop us all in the car, me and my brother and sister, and she would drive us out. And I remember couldn't be more than 5 or 6, and just even then, looking out, just the 15. This is like the 80s, man. When there's
2-lane highway.
Yeah, the 2-lane.
Remember when it was red?
Oh my God, yes, yeah. I loved it when it was red. I loved it when it was red. There, you can still find some stretches if you get off the road. There's a couple stretches here and there.
Yeah. My son never believed me. He's like, "There was red." I'm like, "Yes,
Yeah,
the whole thing was red."
The whole thing.
What? I don't understand. I'm like, "I know." Anyway, sorry.
No. And just absolutely adoring the desert. I remember moving to the East Coast and still kind of being in love with that. But I love the place we live, and it's hard to kind of figure out if I'm ever going to be able to really leave.
It's a tough place to leave, not only because the desert holds you. Like, there's something about the desert. You're right. You know what I mean? Like, when I get out, when you're talking about hiking, I get out on every road in every direction and ride my bike, and I'm just in it and see it, and I love it. And more than I love riding in mountain roads.
Yeah, no,
it's weird. And then also, this place, Las Vegas, like, I honestly think it's the freest place in America, as far as nobody really, they got their thing and they're not really worried about your thing. You know what I mean? They may be judgmental of other people, but they don't really seem to tell you about it. Like, it's just.
No, I'm gonna pretty much side completely with you on that, man.
Really?
That's this place is. I mean, like, just if you want to check the stats, right? We're the most ethnically diverse city in the country. We're the only country you can come to with a GED and still get a job that makes $30,000 to $70,000 to $60,000 a year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We have every single class and race of people and
business owners as well.
And then we have this weird, crazy kind of coal mine town thing going on too, because the Strip is basically a coal mine for people that think they're having a great weekend, right?
And it's a
great way
weird
to put
place.
it.
It's a weird.
That place is a weird place, and it's like all of us that live here kind of avoid it unless we have to.
Yeah, but I mean, sometimes I go down and I try at least 2-3 times a year to go down and enjoy the fuck out of it. And I don't mean like, I don't mean like go out and get drunk and go clubbing and like none of that, but just like really enjoy like what it is, because it's like mind blowing.
It's
like
crazy.
It's too much. It's too much for me, dude. It is sensory overload. I usually can't. I gotta go.
It's the most surreal thing that mankind has ever made. We were like, middle of nowhere.
It is baffling.
Middle of nowhere. This was a little tiny train stop. Initially, this was a little place to get water somewhere on the old Spanish Trail. That's all this was, which is a miracle. And if you ride out. I like going out to Tacopa. I'll talk about it all day. But if you ride out, that's Old Spanish Trail Highway, and the reason it's Old Spanish Trail Highway is because there's the fucking Old Spanish Trail, and that road, that loop, was the Silk Road of the Americas, and it's older than the Spanish, and it's older than the word trail in this country because
literally, it's not beautiful.
I don't know. I like sitting under those salt trees in Tacopa. I will pull up right there and just sit, and I don't know, something about the smell or something. I will just sit there for a long time. They
got a weird buzz to them, and I can't explain that place fully.
And you're not the only person to tell me that. Like recently, we gotta spend some time out there. We might go to the Takeover, maybe.
I'm probably gonna be up at the Takeover too. But Tacopa's got a weird buzz to it. There's other places. The desert has a lot of. I was out with a. Have you been to the Mojave Preserve, by the way? Like, have you done the road to Joshua Tree?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Mojave Preserve is like
amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah.
I have wept driving that road, just just bawling. Like, I felt incredibly pulled, and then I don't know. yeah, I love. How did I get sidetracked on the desert? This happens.
It's
all
cool.
the time.
Because it's the
It's
desert.
great.
I mean, the desert wants you to talk about it.
Yeah, I know, and I do, and I always want to talk about the desert because, like, and I hate it because we get I not hate it, but I get really frustrated lately because I get a lot of there's a lot of artists coming into town.
Okay.
UNLV or the Beverly Rogers Arts Loft and Black Mountain Institute, and they bring a lot of like world-class artists, and they get them out here, and they have them talk about their stuff, or read something, or show some art, and it's really cool, and it's really neat. And every time I meet one of them, I go, "Has anyone taken you to the desert yet?" And they always go, "What?" And I go, "So none of these organizations have arranged to show you the actual thing that makes this place
Amazing.
special."
Yeah,
Yeah. Right? The actual thing that makes it incredible is that once you drive, you know, in
Go to any
30 miles,
direction,
30 miles in any direction,
Yeah.
it is not place anymore. This is an island of humanity in the middle of true wilderness, unsettable wilderness, wilderness
Yeah.
that we will never fully be able to dominate or control.
Yeah.
This
Ever.
is
No, you're right.
this is because it has protected itself. It has protected itself by making it impossible for us to find resources, excluding minerals. And that's fucking beautiful because we have to leave it mostly the fuck alone. And you can't say that.
Well, I talk to people that have been here for years, and have never even been to something as simple as Red Rock. They're like, "Where?"
But I mean, again, that's a
That's a TV problem.
it's a mindset problem. It's an impoverishment of the mind.
Yeah, totally.
And this has always been a problem with humanity, right?
Yeah.
Is we're our own goddamn galaxies, and we don't even recognize it half the
Right.
time. We're literally like, this is a universe.
Right.
Mhm.
We're like, I always joke around with Doctor Who fans, whatever you think about the show, is like, we're a TARDIS, right? We're human beings are a fucking TARDIS. Like, you open it up, and it's way bigger on the inside than it is on the out. That's what a person is. We're entire spiraling nexuses. That's why, to me, that's why death is tragic. It's not whatever the transience of existence. Death is tragic because you lose a pocket universe, an entire solar system, a galaxy, a Milky Way of consciousness.
You don't
of
think
perception.
at that point it just expands outside of...
Well, I don't get to enjoy it.
See, that's my problem.
And
too.
I'm selfish.
Maybe you do when it happens to you, though. It's all about an individual experience, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not gonna argue against that. I just it's still,
I'm not asking to argue.
no, it's just still like I come from a hyper argumentative household, so no, it's all. I mean, like, I think other people were like, oh, arguments are so difficult and hard, and for us, like, it was just kind of like
How you talk.
how we talk. So
Yeah.
like everything is a debate on some level, and nobody's actually trying to win. We just want to get our point across as intensely as possible. And I think I'm like kind of the ogre of the family
My mom's
too.
household's like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it definitely makes relationships with other people for me difficult on occasion. It's and it's not necessarily something in my personality I'm always very happy with or proud of. It's something I need to work on. But that said, if you need someone to advocate for you, you gotta call me because I will.
Well, where can people find you?
Yeah, where can they find you?
You said
You
call
got
me.
anything
You want
coming
to
up
put
you
your
need
phone
to
number
plug?
on here, you can.
No, because
Okay.
I don't know how many people will call, or I don't know if it'll feel worse if no one calls or if too many
Right?
people call.
I know, that'd be bad.
Well, not your phone number, but where can they find your...
Instagrams and stuff.
You can Instagram me at Bread and Circuses on Instagram.
Like eating bread?
Yeah, Bread and Circuses. Like, so, it's a
Roman.
it's a Roman phrase where if you want if you want to create an obedient populace, provide them with bread and circuses.
Wow, or popcorn and movies.
Right, precisely.
You got
Same
it.
thing. Fast food and TV.
Cool.
As long as people are fed and entertained, most of the rest of the shit you can walk around. They will never
They won't
ever.
care.
They won't. They're not going to raise an eyebrow.
Yeah.
They're not going to raise an eyebrow. They've known that since like before Jesus. You know what I mean? Like this was written in Rome, like when Julius Caesar was wandering around. Like
Right.
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. They already figured that part out, and we're still like, why don't things change the way they should? It's like, well, fucking.
Because they got you.
Yeah, they got you. They already figured it out.
Yeah, they
they
got
figured
you.
out what people need or want, at least, and we just want to have fun.
I don't know what
and
I
full bellies.
I don't know what I would do if I was given the power. Like, okay, dude, your turn to figure it out. How are we gonna take care of all these people? Like what?
Oh no! Yeah, you know, that's like one of my favorite Flaming Lips songs, man.
Have a competition is what you do, and you make everybody write you a 3-page essay on how to fix it.
There's 7 billion people, man.
Everybody that wants to do it.
So I'll do like
Everybody
7
that
essays.
wants the job to get hired. Because you know the great leaders always have
But we
smart
do
people working
kind of have
for
to
them.
wrap this up. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So we got you, Brent Circuses on Instagram. Do you have
On
any?
Instagram,
This will be out on Monday. So do you have anything to plug?
Well, we got Radar. We're
Awesome.
doing it at the Thunderbird Lounge.
So Radar's back at the
Radar's
Thunderbird
back.
Lounge.
It's at the Thunderbird Lounge. We're
Which
going to be
one?
going between CMXX and the Thunderbird Lounge, hopefully.
The Thunderbird Lounge, like on Sunset.
No, on Las Vegas Boulevard. We're going to be
that-
on the strip doing performance art.
That's so cool.
You get to, everybody that performs gets to say, well, you know, I performed on the strip once.
Yeah, man.
You're like, I mean, sure, man.
But it's cool. You get to say
no,
it.
you get to say it.
You
It's
get
good.
to say
It's
that.
good on the resume.
Yeah, getting to say it is half of the joy of things.
Totally.
So we got a Radar coming up 18th, Wednesday the 18th. That'll be next September 18th, and then we'll
Nice.
be
You don't
moving
have to
forward
talk
from there.
fast.
So you're going back?
And-
No, you.
No, let the people
Wednesday,
hear.
September 18th, we have Radar at the Thunderbird Lounge on Las Vegas Boulevard,
Nice.
directly across from Little Darlings.
Nice.
If you don't remember where the Thunderbird is, definitely the
Little darling.
Little darlings
should come
will-
to mind.
What time does it start?
it'll be at 8 p.m.
Okay.
You can find me at Brent Circuses. I will be participating in the UNLV Art Walk on October 11th at the Donna Beam Fine Art Gallery with an exhibition of African American artists.
Amazing.
And that's all I got for now. I have lots of plans, but you know.
Cool.
I don't
No,
talk-
immediate's good because you know how
Yeah, people.
the social networks are.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
No, thank you so much. This is one of the funner
super-
podcasts we've done in a long time.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No,
perfect.
I love that you went there.
No
Like,
way.
and I mean it. I'm so.
I loved it.
We're so happy. I'm so happy that you came on.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you. I'm so happy you came on. This was wonderful.